Welcome to the Otters Cast, a podcast where we take you behind the scenes and getting to know the Evansville Otters. I'm your host, Dave Nguyen. David Cronin sets the tone for the Otters offense, which is an important job for a leadoff hitter. He is an old-school throwback player at second base, not afraid to get dirt on his uniform in order to help his team win. I sat down with David to talk about his baseball journey, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, his fanhood of the Cubs, playing with adversity, and much more. Before we get to David Cronin, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button to get all alerts on each podcast, as well as other video content about the Otters to give you the best information at all times. Make sure to follow the Otters on social media on Twitter at EvilOtters, on Instagram, and Facebook at facebook.com/Evansville Otters. And now, my sit-down with David Cronin. All right, Dave Nguyen here with Otters second baseman David Cronin. I want to thank you for joining us for this week's Otters Cast. And first off the bat, there are many guys on the teams from different areas of the country. There are guys from the Northeast. There are guys from Texas. Some of the guys are from the West Coast. And the part of their culture and their background is the way they sound, the way they speak. Being from Philadelphia, I'm sure there are different words that sounds different than maybe to you being in Chicago. So to a Chicago native, how can you describe the Chicago accent?
To be honest, I have no clue. I can tell when guys have the Southern accent. And then, like, my buddy Rob Calabrese on the team has that the New York accent. But just from being around Chicago all my life, I can't really tell you how it is because it sounds kind of normal to me. But obviously, if you go East Coast to the South or West Coast, you can kind of tell that there's a different accent. And I know from my times traveling all over the place that people have told me that I do have a Chicago accent. And honestly, I have no idea what it sounds like or means because I'm just so used to it. But that's a good question. I'll have to think about it a little later.
Well, maybe throughout the entirety of the podcast, maybe people can decipher what a Chicago accent is. Now, growing up, it seems that there were a lot of players. They were always around sports. They played many until they narrowed it down to a few when they got to high school. So growing up, what sports did you play?
I started off with obviously baseball. I played hockey up till about 7th grade. At the same time playing football up till about 7th, 8th grade as well. I also played basketball in high school for a couple of years. But for the most part in high school, I played just baseball. My freshman year in high school, I played all three: baseball, football, and basketball. But yeah, the one sport that probably too many people wouldn't guess is I played hockey growing up as well.
Really? So what position did you play in hockey?
I was a center.
Okay.
And I played on a AAA team, which was, I guess, pretty competitive. And I got cut from my team when I was heading into maybe 7th grade. And after that, I decided, I'm done playing hockey. So I don't miss it. I mean, it was a good time. I still have some buddies that I played with at the time, and actually one of them's actually in the NHL, and a couple of them are still playing minor league hockey to make it to the NHL one day. So it's pretty cool seeing the guys that I either played with or played against make it to the NHL.
Who's the guy who's in the NHL?
Connor Carrick. He's from my hometown, Orland Park, Illinois, and he's currently with the New Jersey Devils.
Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. Is with the Blackhawks winning the 3 cups in recent years, is it fair to say that hockey is big in Chicago? I know baseball is probably the number one sport, though.
Yeah, definitely. It was especially with how bad the Bulls have been during the winter. It was good to see the Blackhawks took over the last 10 years, just to give something to watch during that time. And it's also good to see that the Bears are picking it up again to give the people what to watch in the fall time. But, yeah, it's definitely always pretty exciting when the Chicago sports teams do well because really the city comes together. So it's always a great time with them.
Now, understanding you grew up a Cubs fan, and I mentioned to you that I went to visit Wrigley Field last week when we were on the road in Chicago. To those who have never been to Wrigley, how can you describe it?
I'd say it's a party. It's a good time there. There's so much you can do, and the atmosphere in the game is always great, whether it's a Tuesday night and it's cold and rainy or it's a Sunday night game. The stadium's always going to be packed with close to 40,000 people a game, and just people on the north side love the Chicago Cubs, so it's going to be a great time. And with how good the Cubs have been over the last 5 or 6 years, it's always exciting to go see them play. And there's so many bars and restaurants surrounding Wrigley Field that there's always something you can do. And I haven't ever had a bad time there, being bored or whatever. It's just always a great time.
Now, with you growing up a Cubs fan, did that influence you to want to play professional baseball one day?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always a kid's dream, playing baseball when they're younger and, playing for their favorite team when they grow up one day to make it. So definitely, if that day ever happened where I got to play in a Major League Baseball game in Wrigley Field, it'd be a dream come true. So that's what I'm still working towards, so we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. So when you played hockey and you eventually gave it up, and you played a little bit of basketball. What position were you in basketball, and then when was it that you really focused on baseball as your primary sport?
I was a point guard in basketball. I played from like 7th grade till about my freshman year of high school, and then after my freshman year of high school, where I also played football and basketball, I decided to shut it down with football and basketball and just focus on baseball. Being the smallest guy in football and basketball, even baseball, I realized that, my journey in sports wasn't being pursued with football or basketball, and, baseball was my number one sport that I loved. So I decided to, stick with that and put everything into that sport.
Now, you kind of remind me a little bit of a slot receiver with your height. What position did you play in football?
I was actually a cornerback. So, yeah, I was a wide receiver on the freshman team as well, but for the most part, cornerback was my position.
Okay. So, in other words, you still have the speed if necessary.
Yeah, definitely. Got the speed, got the hands, quickness. I got it all.
Yeah, we can see that on the diamond playing second base here in Evansville. So, when did you know that, or when was the feeling when baseball went from a sport that you love to potentially a reality where you could play it professionally as a career?
Probably during my freshman year at UIC. We had some teammates that had opportunities to get drafted and get looked at by scouts. I redshirted my freshman year at school, so I was kind of just looking back, hanging out during the season when it was going on, and to see that there was guys coming out to watch my teammates play, gave me the idea that, why can't that be me one day? So, yeah, definitely after my freshman year, my redshirt freshman year, where I actually played the whole year, and there were still scouts coming to see, other teammates of mine, and so that's when I really thought like I had the opportunity. I just, had to keep working hard and proving people.
Yeah, there's some athletes who will redshirt to get the whole college athletics experience, know what it's like with the daily routine, going on the field for practice, and then opening up a book or whenever the game or practice is over. Did you, in a way, mature, in a sense, to get ready for when you were ready to play, to have an idea of what your routine would be like when you were at University of Illinois, Chicago, to be exact?
Yeah, I definitely probably wasn't ready to play right away my freshman year, since I probably weighed around 160 pounds my freshman year, and I didn't really have much of an approach at the plate either. It was kind of just going up, swinging, because you can get away with that kind of stuff in high school. So, it was definitely good to sit back a year and kind of work on, the game rather than just going up there playing. I was able to learn from a couple seniors during my freshman year that really helped out. So it was definitely something that was very beneficial for me.
Now, you attended Carl Sandburg High School, and did you have an option whether to go to private school or public school, because there are some athletes, they'll go to private school because it's a better education as well as a better sports team, whereas other athletes attended the public school because of the same reasons.
I could have gone to a Catholic private school if I wanted to, but all my buddies back at home were going to the public Carl Sandburg High School, so I didn't really think that the private schools were anything spectacular or was going to give me a better opportunity playing college baseball or whatsoever, so I just did the normal public school to hang out with my buddies.
Yeah, something strikes me, you're not really a uniform kind of guy. With traveling on the road trip, you're wearing Hawaiian shirts, so something tells me you like to dress in a way freely to show off your personality.
Yeah, I definitely like to have my own style, so having to wear a specific uniform back in the high school days probably wouldn't have gone too well.
Now, were you heavily recruited coming out of high school in order to go to college, or were there just a few schools that were looking at you, and why was UIC the choice?
No, I actually didn't get any Division I offers. I went on a visit to UIC the fall of my senior year of high school, and they offered me a walk-on position there at school, and I was kind of bummed out because I really wanted, Division I scholarship, and my travel coaches, were thinking that I was going to have to either go maybe the junior college route or Division II, Division III, but my priority was to play Division I baseball. And, once I went on an official visit at UIC, I fell in love with the campus. I fell in love with the players that were already there. So once they offered me, the spot on the team the following season, I took it and ran with it. That's what I wanted to be, and I have no regrets towards it.
Now, your senior year, you played very well. You hit 400 with 27 runs scored and 22 RBIs, and you were given the walk-on opportunity at UIC. With a walk-on opportunity, did you feel like you had a chip on your shoulder in order to try to earn the trust and respect of your coaches and your peers?
Yeah, definitely. But coming into that school year, my coach's really main focus was that the best players are going to play. I know I was going into the couple weeks into the season, I was going to redshirt, which was fine. I totally understood. But even the following year, when I was my redshirt freshman, where I was still a walk-on technically, the best guys were going to play, and I got my opportunity like the second or third week into the season, and I never looked back from there. So I definitely had a chip on my shoulder, and happy I was able to contribute.
Now, you started playing your sophomore year, but your freshman season playing, because that's how a redshirt works. You redshirt your first year, don't play. So therefore, your first year playing college baseball was in your second year of school. You were on the all-freshman team, and then in your second year at UIC, you were second team All-Midwest. You were first on the team in hits, total bases. Were you always hitting leadoff when you were in college, or was that something that the coach later on put you in that position?
Yeah, for the most part, in high school, I hit leadoff my entire career, and then my redshirt freshman year, I hit more towards the bottom of the lineup. But, starting my redshirt sophomore year and redshirt junior year, for the most part, I hit either leadoff or second.
Okay. And what is it about second base that you love? You're always involved in the infield, but there are a lot of players who play different positions, and there's always versatility in baseball. So what is it about second base?
I like being able to turn double plays. People say like the hardest position to play in the infield is either shortstop or third base, but for the most part, at second base, you got to have some good range. Get over there and complete the plays, whether it's turning double play or making a play up the middle or even in the four holes. So I'd like to say, third base is obviously harder, but because it's the hot corner and all that. But I definitely think second base is a lot harder, just because you got to be more locked into the game. You're not really stationary over there. So, and you're always in on every pitch.
And not only that, you can't be afraid to get down and dirty, especially in the infield dirt, diving for stops or hard ground balls to preserve runs or to make that double play that maybe wouldn't have happened if you dove out for a ball.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best part about second base is you go out there and make plays every day, and whether it's turning double play or diving for a ball up the middle or in the four hole, it's what it's all about and what I would enjoy to do.
Now, your junior year, probably would be one of the years you'll remember the most at UIC. You won the Horizon League championship. You were leading the team or second or third in the team in a bunch of statistical categories. You were hitting .313 with 67 hits, 32 ribbies, 6 homers, first on the team in runs with 50, and first on the team in walks with 39. Just take me through that junior season, and I'm sure that the goal is to win a championship when you're in college, not only to play well, start, but the collective effort to bring a group of guys together to accomplish one common goal.
Yeah, we had some pretty high expectations that year. My freshman class, we had about 12 guys, so this was, it was my redshirt junior year, but it was basically our senior year. So we had a really solid team of upperclassmen and guys that have been busting their butts since freshman year together, and we really wanted to finally take a stand and bring a championship to UIC. It was a great time. We had 6 players get drafted, including myself there, and, we were great on the field, we were great off the field, and I think that's why we were such a dominant team, is because we had such a great connection on and off the field, and definitely a year I'm never going to forget, since we won the regular season conference, we won the Horizon League tournament, and then went on to play in an NCAA tournament, and it was just a great memory that I'm never going to forget.
Now, when you went to the NCAA tournament, where were you guys seated and where did you guys go?
We were a 4th seed in the Southern Mississippi University regional.
Okay. So what was that whole experience like to kind of cap off a really good season? Granted, you were a smaller school going against some of the bigger schools, but what was that experience like playing NCAA postseason baseball?
It was awesome, that's what you dream of when you get on campus your first day of the season. The main goal is always go on to the NCAA tournament, and after 3 years to finally make it there with my teammates was a great memory. It was pretty cool to go into a big stadium, big atmosphere, and play against some very competitive teams like Southern Mississippi and then Mississippi State. Unfortunately, we went 0-2 and lost both of those games by 1 run, but it was definitely a great experience, and we were able to put our name on the map.
Now, going against Mississippi State, they're an SEC baseball powerhouse, but it sounds like your school as a whole was able to enjoy the entire experience. You were drafted by the White Sox, but you grew up a Cubs fan. Was that a little bit of an issue, or is it more of you're going to go to a team whoever decides to pick you?
Yeah, I was going to go to a team whoever decided to pick me. The White Sox were actually the first team that showed interest in me after my redshirt sophomore year. So I definitely knew they were really interested in me, and the fact that they drafted me that I was a Cubs fan was a little weird to start, because I was always wearing White Sox stuff rather than Cubs stuff. But after a couple of days of wearing the White Sox stuff, I got used to it.
Now, you were drafted in the 20th round. Was that an idea of where you think you were going to get drafted, or did you not know?
I had a pretty good idea that it was obviously going to be on the 3rd day of the draft. I didn't know what round it was going to happen or, what specific pick, but I had a good idea that the White Sox were going to get me, and I was, thankful it did.
Now, you went right from the White Sox to getting drafted to rookie ball. Describe that whole transition, especially the day when you get drafted, because I'm sure that's another proud moment in your life, and I'm sure you're grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was able to have a little party with my family and friends that came over that day, because I actually had to leave the very next day for Arizona. So it was definitely an emotional day with my parents there and my buddies that were all there supporting me. Definitely a day I'm never going to forget. But yeah, it was a quick turnaround to going from celebrating with your family and friends to getting out of plane and heading down to Arizona for your physicals and all that. But yeah, rookie ball wasn't much of a major transition, just because, always joining new summer league teams and making new friends is just like the first day of school. You go out there and you might be a little nervous at first because you're playing with guys that you have no clue who they are, but it's only a matter of time where you make buddies and get comfortable.
Now, when you went to rookie ball, you played for the Great Falls team, and in 26 games you had 303 with 27 hits, 11 ribbies, and 27 runs. What was the whole transition from you just graduating college and now you're playing in professional league baseball? Did you ever take a moment to realize why I'm here, or was it always, here's the next step, I got to focus on what I got to do now?
It was definitely more of like the next step. Kind of got to focus on what I would do now. Yeah, there was days where I'd say it was the grind in August where you're kind of really tired, where you had to take a step back and just be like, wow, technically I'm playing professional baseball right now. Instead of feeling tired and exhausted, you kind of just take it in and be excited about this is your daily job, so enjoy it while you can. So yeah, it wasn't too much of a transition, like I said. It was great having the opportunity to do it.
Going back to your redshirt junior year, you did get drafted, but did you ever think about, was the option to play your final year at UIC for eligibility, or did you want to get to the majors as soon as possible?
I was happy with my decision to leave school. I was there for 4 years, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get drafted. Who knows what would have happened if I would have stayed a fifth year. If you can always get hurt, you always don't play as good, and so can't pass up an opportunity like I get, because who knows if I were ever to get again. So yeah, I have no regrets with my decision of signing with the White Sox, and really happy it did happen.
Right. All right. So you went into spring training in 2018. I've heard from other guys that you go into spring training thinking that you're going to make a roster. What was that whole process like, and eventually, or unfortunately, not making a roster and getting released?
Yeah, it was definitely a total letdown. I was feeling very confident going into spring training that year, knowing I had a great year at Great Falls that past summer, and I had high expectations that I was going to make the one of the low A teams, and keep going with the Chicago White Sox organization. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, like I saw it. So yeah, I guess it is what it is.
Now, you came to Evansville rather quickly. One, how did you find out about the Otters?
I was pretty familiar with the Frontier League, since there's a couple of teams that surround my hometown, Orland Park. Andy was the first manager that gave me a call after I got released, and I've been down here in Evansville a couple of times because I have a buddy of mine who played soccer at the University of Southern Indiana, so I visited him a couple of times down here in the fall. So I was pretty familiar with the area. I wasn't really familiar with the Otters, but since Andy was the first manager that called me, and I still wanted to have that feeling of playing away from home rather than living at home and playing ball, I decided to come here.
And were there multiple teams that were contacting you to play for them, and why was the Otters the best choice?
Yeah, there's a handful of other teams that contacted me. I think River City maybe in Washington, and then the couple of teams that I live back at home. But yeah, for the most part, I decided to come to Evansville just because I was familiar with this town rather than the other towns in the Frontier League, and then obviously the ones at home, but I didn't want to live at home and still play it. So definitely the fact that I was familiar with Evansville and Andy was the first manager that called me made it a pretty easy decision.
So in a way, there's some kids who, when they get accepted to college, they want to go away from home to have the full college experience and the away from home experience as well. So are you finding that here in Evansville, the away from home experience and in a way living on your own?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's nothing different for me. When I lived downtown Chicago for school, it was, I still had that, living away from home experience. So I'm not trying to live away from home as another college experience living in Evansville. It was just, I'm familiar with Evansville, been here a couple times before playing here, so it was an easy decision.
Now, from talking to some of the guys, everyone likes playing for Andy McCauley. In your opinion, what is it about Andy? Is he a player's coach? I like how he's straightforward and he'll tell you how it is. But from a player's perspective, what is it like playing for a manager like Andy?
Yeah, he's definitely a great manager. He's really easy to form a positive relationship with. And, yeah, what I liked about him most is he's pretty straightforward with you. He's going to let you do what you want, but, if something he doesn't like, he's going to come up to you and let you know, and that's what you need in a manager, someone that's going to, not be there for you, but then again, kind of give you a slap on the butt and make wake you up. So, but yeah, I respect the heck out of him, and very fortunate enough I get the chance to play for him.
Now, in your first season with the Otters last year, you played and started all the games. You played in 76. You had 296 with 57 runs and 87 hits, along with a couple home runs. What was your first season like with the Otters, and looking back on last year?
Yeah, it was a great time. Fortunate enough to make some new relationships here with the guys, and Ryan Long was a guy I played with in summer ball a couple years ago, so that was another reason why I came here, was knowing that he came here. But yeah, it was definitely a good year. We went on to go to playoffs down the stretch. We had just a bunch of older guys that, were great leaders and wanted to help the team win. And, when we got the chance to play some meaningful games down the road in August and September, and we took advantage of those games and won them. So it was definitely a great summer last year, and another reason why I'm back this year.
Now, what is it that you like about Evansville, or what have you embraced about Evansville? Clearly it's a baseball town and they love the Otters, but from your perspective, what have you embraced about the town?
Yeah, that they do care about their baseball. It's nice, playing home games and people are coming out to support you. It definitely would stink if we came out here and there was only a couple of fans in the stadium. So knowing that they actually do come out here and cheer us on, support us, is really, exciting. 'Cause, especially on the weekends, there's close to about 3,000 people that come to these games. So, it makes you want to play rather than, if it was a Friday or Saturday night and there was about 400 people out there, it would kind of stink. So, but yeah, it's awesome that they care about us and cheer us on, and helps the guys out a lot, because that's the type of energy you want to play with, is, upbeat and passion, and that's what they give us.
Now, in the Frontier League, Bosse Field is one of two that is all natural grass. Everyone else is turf. And there's always a historic significance about Bosse Field, with it being the third oldest baseball park in America. Does that also help you out, or is that a pretty cool, neat nugget, the fact that you're playing here in Evansville as well?
Yeah, it's definitely cool to say that I got the chance playing a third oldest ballpark in America. And, I do like the natural surface when I don't get bad hops, ground balls. So when those do happen, that's when I wish we were playing on turf. But I do like our natural surface that we have, and, the grounds crew here does a great job of taking care of the field. So, yeah, I definitely enjoy playing here.
Now, lastly, as far as the serious questions goes, you're a leader. You're a veteran on the team. Do you embrace the part of being a leader, and what have you told other guys who are new to Evansville to help bring them along and get used to the transition?
Yeah, I definitely embrace being a leader. That was one of my main goals I wanted to do in college, was being a leader and have guys, look up to you and, show you the ways. And so, yeah, definitely doing that here is something I'm used to doing, which is fine. And for like the new guys that come in, is just, take it one day at a time. It's a long season. You got to always try and stay positive. And, if there's anything guys ever need or struggle with, it's, there's always somebody there for you. So speak up and don't be too quiet about it. But, yeah, I mean, luckily we have a lot of older guys here in this team, and just a bunch of grit dudes. So it's really easy to get along with everybody, which is great.
Now, being from the suburbs of Chicago, there are two professional teams in the Cubs and the White Sox. To those who really aren't familiar with the fanhood, how is one either a Cubs or a White Sox fan?
The White Sox are on the south side of Chicago, and the Cubs are on the north side of Chicago. So usually, if you're growing up on the south side in Chicago or the suburbs, you're a White Sox fan, and then it's vice versa. If you grew up in the northern suburbs or north side of Chicago, you're a Cubs fan. But I grew up in the south side of Chicago, or the suburbs, and my entire family growing up was White Sox fans, but my grandfather and I were Cubs fans. So we were the strange ones out of the family.
Well, I guess you turned out all right. Even though the White Sox won their the first World Series before the Cubs. I'm sure 2016 was much sweeter.
Yeah, definitely. It was my junior year in college, and let's just say I was 21, so it was a good time.
That's fair enough. Now, with 8 teams being in the Chicago area, what do you embrace the part about Chicago being a baseball town? Clearly it is, even though the Bears are really good, and they'll rally behind the Bears and the Blackhawks as well, including the Bulls too. But what is it about Chicago being a baseball town that you love?
I'd say that the people of Chicago just love going to see their teams win. For the Cubs, the last 5 or 6 years, they've been really good. And, regardless if they were good or bad, and, the people always go see the Cubs. And, they're close to 40,000 people a game. And it's always a good time there. And now with the White Sox, and they're playing a little better, unfortunately. But, yeah, it's good to see both teams in the city playing really well. And I'm pretty sure the Cubs and White Sox are playing each other next week or so it'll be a good thing for the city, but hopefully the Cubs come up on top.
Now, the other thing about Chicago that I love is deep dish pizza. For those who aren't familiar, that's one of the other staples of Chicago, and it's the only time I'll ever eat pizza with a fork and knife. What is it about deep dish pizza that either you love, and what are some of the hot spots and the tourist attractions to go to?
The hot spots for pizza downtown is definitely Giordano's, Illuminati's. And, yeah, the deep dish is great, how they have a thick crust, and then some of my buddies call it just bread and tomatoes, but the sauce is really good, and then they put the cheese inside the crust, which is great. But, yeah, you definitely have to eat it with a fork and knife, which is, pretty funny when I show my buddies about it, but it's definitely great. And then the other spots to go downtown are definitely Wrigley Field is one of the top ones on my list. Navy Pier is always pretty cool. The Bean is cool, but I mean, it's always a great city. There's so much to do, and I've never been bored in the city.
No, I can agree. Staying on the topic of food, what are your, up to 5, what are some of your favorite foods? Now, they can either be place or a specific. It's up to you.
Favorite foods? Well, for one, I would say deep dish pizza is one of them. I'd have to get Giordano's deep dish pepperoni pizza. I always like me a nice big steak.
Filet or New York strip or porterhouse?
Sirloin.
Okay.
What else? Portillo's is solid in Chicago. I like getting the Polish sausage with Italian beef in it. That's always a powerhouse sandwich there. That's really, I'm not really into I'm not really a big Italian guy. Not really. I'd eat Chinese, but not too much. Seafood, I'm in. Sushi, I'm out. That's really it.
Okay. We've seen a handful of movies on the road trips, on the bus. Up to 5, what are your favorite movies and or TV shows?
Miracle on Ice is one.
Solid movie, by the way.
Yeah, Miracle. What else? Favorite movies. Another TV show, Entourage from HBO.
There's that.
Is one.
Would you be the Vinny Chase character?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Breaking Bad was pretty awesome that I watched last year.
Solid.
What movies? Shoot. I can't think of more movies on the top of my head, but definitely Miracle on Ice is one I can always watch and always fires me up watching them and play hockey.
Now, any Game of Thrones, Sopranos, any of those of that nature that have been around for quite a while, Mad Men?
Yeah, I watched, finished Game of Thrones. I just finished Seinfeld. Seinfeld was up there for a good one. Friends is also great.
Yes.
Haven't
seen Seinfeld yet, but I think I need to.
Yeah, usually it really has to take a lot to get me into watching a TV show just because it takes so long to finish. So But yeah, definitely Seinfeld and Friends is up there in the list for sure.
In your fanhood of teams of order, I'm assuming Cubs are number one, but what's the next to the hierarchy?
I'm a big Michigan State Spartans fan.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
When I was younger, we grew up. I was born in Chicago, but for like 2 or 3 years, we lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and so I was a Michigan State fan up until about, I don't know, first or second grade, whatever, 5 years of that, and then finally it was at the point where Michigan and Michigan State were, always play each other, so I couldn't cheer for them both. So I ended up just randomly picking Michigan State. So I've been a diehard Michigan State fan ever since, I was younger. And so that's definitely number 2 on the list. Then Cubs. And then, I'm not really a Bulls fan. I like the Hawks, but nothing too crazy other than that. Obviously the Bears. But yeah, the Cubs and Michigan State Spartans are the go-to.
Now, I've had the pleasure to meet your mom and dad at FanFest. Are you a family guy? Do you have any siblings? And is family life an important part of your life?
Yeah, family is definitely important in my life. I always love when I get a chance to go home after during the season to see my mom and dad. I have an older brother who's married and lives in Odessa, Texas. And then I have a younger brother who is a senior in a small school in Chicago and is currently playing summer baseball in Hutchinson, Kansas.
A couple more, and Dave, I really thank you for your time. Who is your favorite MLB player, or who is the player that you try to emulate your game after?
So I'd say growing up, my favorite player was Sammy Sosa, and that's how I got to become a Cubs fan.
Sure.
But
and him and McGuire were going at it.
Yeah, definitely. But somebody I kind of play my game around was Dustin Pedroia with the Red Sox. He was always the smallest guy out there, but had the toughest attitude on the field and off the field, and had so much swagger doing it. And obviously he's a small guy like me, so that's how I try to play my game with.
What are some of your hobbies when you're not playing baseball?
I like to play pickup basketball with my buddies. I like to golf a lot. And definitely watch a lot of college basketball in the winter.
Okay. Lastly, who is your inspiration or someone that you look up to try to, when you go out on the field, and make them proud?
Not Mike Rizzatello, that's for sure.
So not Riz.
Not Riz. Just my parents. I always try to make them happy, regardless if I'm having a good day or bad day, or not even playing baseball. But definitely my parents are someone I look up to, and can't thank them enough for the opportunities they've given me in life, and they're always there for me when I need them, and so yeah, can't complain with them.
Well, David Cronin, I thank you for your time, a leader on and off the field, and it makes sense why your favorite player is Pedroia, or you try to emulate not only the height, but I feel like you're a throwback player as well, not afraid to get down and dirty, not too flashy, and I think that's what characterizes you best. So, David, I really thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
A big thanks to my guest, David Cronin. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen and leave a comment below. Remember to click subscribe to get all the latest media content with the Evansville Otters. Don't forget to follow all the Otters' social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Once again, thank you for listening to this week's Otters Cast. Until next time, I'm Dave Nguyen.